to week 6, unit 1. We are studying way of life, and the topic for today is artistic influence. Yes. What we'll do now, we will watch a little video about art.
It's only been the last few hundred years or so that Western civilization has been putting art in museums. At least museums resembling the public institutions we know today. Before this, for most, art served other purposes. What we call fine art today was in fact primarily how people experienced an aesthetic dimension of religion. Paintings, sculpture, textiles, and illuminations were the media of their time, supplying vivid imagery to accompany the stories of the day. In this sense, Western art shared a utilitarian purpose with other cultures around the world, some of whose languages, incidentally, have no word for art. So how do we define what we call art? Generally speaking, what we're talking about here is work that visually communicates meaning beyond language, either through representation or the arrangement of visual elements in space. Evidence of this power of iconography, or ability of images to convey meaning, can be found in abundance if we look at art from the histories of our major world religions. Almost all have, at one time or another in their history, gone through some sort of aniconic phase. Aniconism prohibits any visual depiction of the divine. This is done in order to avoid idolatry, or confusion between the representation of divinity and divinity itself, keeping it real, so to speak, in the relationship between the individual and the divine. However, this can be a challenge to maintain, given that the urge to visually represent and interpret the world around us is a compulsion difficult to suppress. For example, even today, where the depiction of Allah or the Prophet Muhammad is prohibited, an abstract celebration of the divine can still be found in arabesque patterns of Islamic textile design, or the masterful flourishes of brushwork in Arabic calligraphy, where the words of the Prophet assume a dual role as both literature and visual art. Likewise, in art from the early periods of Christianity and Buddhism, the divine presence of the Christ and the Buddha do not appear in human form, but are represented by symbols. In each case, iconographic reference is employed as a form of reverence. Anthropomorphic representation, or depiction in human form, eventually became widespread in these religions only centuries later, under the influence of the cultural traditions surrounding them. Historically speaking, the public appreciation of visual art in terms other than traditional religious or social function is a relatively new concept. Today, we fetishize the fetish, so to speak. We go to museums to see art from the ages, but our experience of it there is drastically removed from the context in which it was originally intended to be seen. It might be said that the modern viewer lacks the richness of engagement that she has with contemporary art, which has been created relevant to her time and speaks her cultural language. It might also be said that the history of what we call art is a conversation that continues on as our contemporary present passes into what will be some future generation's classical past. It's a conversation that reflects the ideologies, mythologies, belief systems, and taboos, and so much more of the world in which it was made. But this is not to say that work from another age made to serve a particular function in that time is dead or has nothing to offer the modern viewer. Even though, in a museum setting, works of art from different places and times are presented alongside each other, isolated from their original settings, their juxtaposition has benefits. Exhibits are organized by curators, or people who've made a career out of their ability to recontextualize or remix cultural artifacts in a collective presentation. As viewers, we're then able to consider the art in terms of a common theme that might not be apparent in a particular work, until you see it alongside another, and new meanings can be derived and reflected upon. If we're so inclined, we might even start to see every work of art as a complementary part of some undefined, unified whole of past human experience, a trail that leads right to our doorstep and continues on with us, open to anyone who wants to explore it.
Okay, welcome back to Purpose. So today we will learn about artistic influences to be able to create works of visual art and principles of arranging size, proportion, and balance, and specify and describe local cultural influences on creation of personal works of visual art by using computers to facilitate creation of work pieces from imagination, together with searching for and collecting the terms related to art areas from learning sources and present them through speaking and writing.
Alright, so vocabulary.
So the first word is complementary. So complementary means something that complements something else. Okay, so a husband and a wife complement each other. A brother and a sister complement each other.
Okay, the second one, local. So local is, if you want to eat local food, is something from the same country or from the same city. Local.
And the third one is painting. So painting, as we all know, is a work of art with the colors.
Alright. So we watch a video about the colors, how to mix the colors. Can be very important for the art.
So think of the matching and think of complementary as 1 and 2. Okay, color number 1, color number 2.
Welcome to Back at the Class here on the Artist Block, ladies and gentlemen. You guys really liked that color theory video I did, and you guys wanted more, so we're gonna continue this by going over complementary colors. If you guys missed that color theory video and you would like to see it, you can always click the Cyclops logo, or you can click the video that will pop up during the outro, and that'll take you over to that video. So what is a complementary color scheme? Well, a complementary color scheme consists of 2 colors that are across from one another on the color wheel. This can be any 2 colors, it's no specific 2 colors, but an example of this would be red and green. This is actually a very common complementary color scheme. You see it in Christmas, and you see it a lot in nature, for example, a rose. Now in your complementary color scheme, you're always going to have one warm color and one cool color, because as we discussed in our last color theory video, if we cut the color wheel in half, you split it into warm colors and cool colors. And having one warm color and one cool color is going to increase that contrast. Now the complementary color scheme focuses on the contrast between 2 colors in that relationship. This creating a vibrant, harmonious color scheme. But there's something you need to look out for with this color scheme, because if you have both colors in that relationship at the same saturation or at a very high saturation, then those 2 colors are going to clash. And it's going to become very harsh for the eyes to look at, and it's not going to be a harmonious color scheme. So here's what you're going to want to do. Here's a little tip for complementary colors. You're going to want to have one key color. This color being your main color, pretty much the one you want to focus on. And the other color is going to be your accenting color. This is pretty much here just to make the other color look better. So how do we do this? Well, there's many different ways to do this. There's not only one way. But one quick and easy way to do this would be to lower the saturation of your accenting color. The more saturated something is, the more it pops out, the more attention it gets. But the less saturated something is, the less attention it gets, and the less it pops out. Therefore, helping that other color. It's kind of accenting that other color. Practice and study how color works in order to be able to use it effectively in your art. And there's our simple little guide for complementary colors. Next week, we'll be doing analogous color schemes.
The video.
So what we basically learned is that there are complementary colors, and this wheel is fixed. So the colors on the wheel are fixed, and then we try to mix opposite colors when we paint. So for example, here you see here you see the red house. So the complementary color on the wheel is green. So we will use a little bit of green. Also, depending upon the color of the red, you may also choose light blue. Okay? So now, for the second house, you have light blue, so the complementary color will be red or orange, so on and so forth.
And here you have the wheel in detail. So you can pause the video and see and observe a bit. So if you use green, it's good to use red. If you use orange, it's good to use blue. Orange is blue. Yellow, purple.
So think of this, when you paint your house, if you use the colors that are on the opposite side of the wheel, then it is very pleasing to the eye. It is very nice to look at. Okay.
Okay. So what is art for you? Can you describe with a couple of words the meaning of art? So open your notebook and write what you think it is for you.
And also think about how art is important for countries and for cultures. So like when you go to any country, you always go to a museum, and that museum has local art. And what does it tell you about the country? What does it tell you about the culture of the country? So think about that.
And art, what is also the meaning? Is it only like painting, or is music also art? Or instrument, is it also art? So think and write what is art for you. So here you have some architecture. So the term Srivijaya art can be used to refer to all art and architecture in South Thailand during the period from the 7th to the 13th century.
So like teacher Kevin said in the previous slide, art does not only mean painting. It could mean many other things. And here you have sculpture. So sculpture can also be an art form. Okay. So here you have Dwarti art, which refers to the art style in Thailand during the 7th and 11th century. And this is before the arrival of the Khmer and the Thai. Okay. So all this art that you see, I think Wat Chedi Luang in Chiang Mai is a very good example of this form of art.
So here's a Thai painting. So try to guess the value of this art.
In baht, try to think how much baht would you pay for this painting, or the last price that someone paid for this painting.
And the first one is 19,500 baht.
Yeah.
Second one,
Try to guess this one as well. And think if you have seen this somewhere. Think if you have seen this. It's actually a local artist from Chiang Rai. And think if you have seen this somewhere.
and you see also the complementary colors, red and green. And here also 19,500. Third one, see a tree. This one is a bit less, it's 8,500. Here it's like a mirror.
And they use some good complementary colors as well. And you can see golden. They use golden with a little bit of green. And you have red as well. So try to guess the value of this art.
This one is almost 10,000 baht. Now let's go to the heavy painting. Try to guess the value of this art. If you compare the first here to this one, what do you think? Do you think this one has more value? And here the answer, be careful. Here, 6,327,200,000 baht.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for just a bit of color. So if you want, try to make the same and maybe try to sell it.
Actually, and also a lot of value of art also depends upon the painter. So if when teacher will press the button, we will see the name of the painter. And this is Jackson Pollock, who was a very famous abstract artist. And this is his painting, number 17A. Okay.
And the next one?
So this one here, try to think what this is. Try to think where you have seen this, if you have seen this, and try to guess the value of this art.
And don't be afraid, it's not the internet connection, it's exactly the picture, how it looks like. So it's not internet connection, it's exactly how the picture is. And here the answer.
So as you can see, 375,882,945 baht. Okay. So this is actually a picture of a CryptoPunk, which is a NFT, or you can call it a cryptocurrency. But there is only one painting like this, which is why it is so expensive. So try to Google CryptoPunk and and try to see what prices the CryptoPunk is selling at.
Alright, so let's go to the green hat, some Shanghai local art painting. So try to create a local art painting. Here you see the white temple, and here you see
that's a demon from
demon.
So try to do some, so this is your thinking tool, but don't try to paint something international. Try to paint or draw something which is local. So we want to see something like if you go to the White Temple, you see these beautiful little carvings. That is very typical of Thai, northern Thai, Lana culture. So try to draw something which is Lana, try to draw something which is Thai. And that is your exercise for this week.
Can be a temple, can be a Akka culture, can be anything. Okay, so what have you learned from this lesson? And write the vocabulary from the lesson in English and try to find the meaning in Thai or in your notebook.
And again, make a drawing of a local Thai, a local Chiang Rai or northern Thailand culture, and do it on an A4 size paper and bring it back when you come to school.
Okay, see you for the next lesson. Bye bye.